know there's a lot of people in the chat, and we should get started. Some of you might think this is going to be a simple lesson for beginners, but it will be a lesson for both beginners and intermediate learners. I'm going to spend time talking obviously about cars and trucks and all the things you know, but I'm also going to talk about other vehicles that maybe you don't know about. Let me just make sure that everything's working here. We should get started. Looks like everything's working great. So again, welcome to this English lesson. There's lots of folks in the chat. I just want to say hi to everyone who is watching. I'm excited today. You can see that I'm at work, but I'm wearing a t-shirt because my students and I are going on a field trip later today. We're going to an amusement park. So anyways, we should get this lesson started. Let's get the basic vehicles out of the way. So in real quick succession, there is something called a car, and I think you all know what a car is. There is something called a truck, and I think you all know what a truck is. It's a bigger vehicle to haul things around. That's the word we use, to haul things. Let's go back to the car though, because I'm forgetting to tell you a few things. The person who drives a car is called the driver. The person who rides in the car is called the passenger. If you're in the Britain, though, the driver sits on the other side. Canada and the United States, the driver sits on this side of the car. If you want to know more, though, about vehicles in particular, there's a video. I'll put a link here in the replay for you, but there is a video that you can watch specifically about vehicles. So that's a car. That's the simple one. Hello again to everyone in the chat. I don't think I'm going to be able to say hi to everyone by name anymore. We used to have about 40 or 50 people watching the lesson live. We're already up to 141. So hello to everyone in the chat. It is good to see all of you. It's good to see some of the familiar names. A truck is also driven by a truck driver. In fact, truck driver is the name of an occupation or job in Canada. You can go to school to learn how to drive a truck, and then you become a truck driver. So a lot of you know that I live out in the country. A lot of people out in the country drive pickup trucks. So a pickup truck is kind of like the same size as a car. It's a little bigger than a car, but it is a vehicle that people will drive every day back and forth to work. But the back part is available if you have anything that you need to haul, or that if you have any cargo. So this is a pickup truck. I used to have a pickup truck a long time ago. Many farmers have pickup trucks because it's really handy when you live on a farm, because you always need to go pick things up. Do you see why it's called a pickup truck? Because of the verb pick up. So it's nice to have a pickup truck. Hey, we also have in Canada and in the United States something called a food truck. So this is a food truck in the winter. A food truck is basically a mobile restaurant. So it's a restaurant on wheels where you can buy different kinds of food. This one's actually, I think, either in France or Quebec, because it says Boulangerie Alsacienne. So this is a food truck that's selling pastries. There's all kinds of different food trucks, though. So Xiang Wak Han says the passenger seat equals shotgun, right? So we do in English when we are approaching a vehicle, if we are going to go for a ride with more than one person, sometimes we yell shotgun, which means we want the passenger seat in the front. Hey, a bigger truck yet is called a transport truck. I didn't find a very good picture of this one. You can see it right here. But a transport truck has, the front part is called the tractor, and the back part is called the trailer. So we call this a transport truck or a tractor trailer, or we call it an 18-wheeler. I've never actually counted the wheels. Apparently, there's 18 of them on a transport truck. So, hey, hello to everyone again. If you're just joining us, we're doing an intermediate lesson on vehicles. we did some of the simple ones so far, but you should try and guess what this is if you want to practice your English. I'll tell you a little bit later. But anyways, welcome to everyone who is just joining us. We're doing a lesson on vehicles. This is what people with kids drive. We either call it a van or a minivan. So this is the driver's side. This is a sliding door. It slides open. And there's enough seats in the back. If you have lots of kids, you can put them in the van or the minivan. We used to always call it a minivan because there is a bigger version of a van. But in regular English speech, we've started to just call this a van. So once you have some kids and you need to bring your kids places, you usually end up getting a minivan. So we have someone saying there's many food trucks near their work. Very cool. Yes, there's a lot of food trucks outside places of work because they know that at lunchtime you're hungry and you usually come out to eat. Let's see here. This is an SUV. So the long version is Sport Utility Vehicle. So it's usually a vehicle where it is four-wheel drive. So four-wheel drive means the engine sends power to all the wheels. It's a little bit of a technicality. In English, we just call this an SUV. It's easier to say SUV than it is to say Sport Utility Vehicle. If you saw the video where I show you that my truck is rusting out, I'll put a link up here if you're watching later. I had a sport utility vehicle, but now I just have a van, so a minivan. But sport utility vehicle, really fun to drive. If you go off-roading, it's nice to have a sport utility vehicle. So off-roading is when you drive where there's no road, and then it's really good to have four-wheel drive. We have a new kind of vehicle just in the last few years, and it's called a crossover. Okay, so a crossover, it's not a car, but it's not an SUV. It's kind of like both of them. So it's a little bit like a car, and it's a little bit like an SUV, and we call that a crossover. And then, of course, everyone's favorite sports car. So I'm pretty sure this is a Lamborghini. Lamborghini is a type of Italian sports car. Do we have any Italian people in the chat? Give us a thumbs up for the Italians who build amazing sports cars. So we have sports car. Bob the Canadian doesn't have a sports car. I have a van. And then sometimes people build cars especially for racing. So you have a race car. So you can see here this car has a number on the side so that the driver and the car, so that they can know which driver and car is in the race and who's in the lead. So a race car. So when we're going to get into some fun vehicles now. So I think we got the basic vehicles done. Let's have a look at some of the more fun vehicles. And again, if you're just joining us, I see the numbers going up. We're doing a lesson today on vehicles. So yeah, Uu says, I like the sports car. I think everyone likes it. Everyone loves sports cars, yes. And Biliano says, I wish I could buy a Lamborghini. Yeah, I live out on a farm. I don't know if a Lamborghini would be very good, but hey, so this is a go-kart. So I'm not sure, I'll hold it up to you. You can see there's a little kid driving this. A go-kart is something that people either buy or build. So you can build a go-kart where you buy a little motor and you buy some wheels and you build what's really just a miniature car or a really, really small race car. So this is a go-kart. When I was a kid, I had a go-kart, and it was really fun because I lived on the farm and I could drive the go-kart around. Super, super fun. This is a bus. I think you've all seen buses in your cities, but we're going to look at a few different kinds of buses. This is a school bus. In North America, this is what a school bus looks like. So you can see the door here where the children can go on the school bus when they need to go to school. In Canada, the red lights flash when the school bus stops. When the bus driver, the person driving the bus, stops the bus, the red lights come on and all traffic, all cars must stop until the children are safely on the bus. So that's a school bus. They're almost all yellow in Canada and the United States. School buses are highly visible. They're easy to see because they're yellow, because we want to keep our children safe. So that's a school bus. If you live in a big city, you probably sometimes go on a city bus. So this is what we call a bus that's used for transit in the city. So this is a city bus. Usually above the driver, there is a sign that tells you where that city bus is going, or what number or that bus is. Again, you can see there's doors on the side here for people to get on and off the bus. Remember from our phrasal verb lesson, you get on and off a bus. But this is a bus. I think this one even has a nice little sign on the side telling you where it's going to go. If you go on a trip, especially if you are a tourist, you might end up going on a coach bus. So this looks like a city bus, but this is a bus made for people who are going to visit places. So already this morning, I saw a coach bus on the way to work, and it was in the parking lot of a store, and a lot of elderly or senior people were getting on it. I think they're going on a trip. So a coach bus has room underneath for luggage. There's little doors here where you can put suitcases and luggage. And then you get, I think the door is on this side, and then you sit up here and then you can see really, really well outside of the windows. So if I go to Niagara Falls, usually I see a lot of coach buses. They're really nice. They have really nice seats, and they usually have a bathroom at the back. So if you are on the highway in a coach bus, there's usually a bathroom or a restroom at the back of the bus. It's interesting. So in Canada, a lot of people like to camp. And when they camp, this is a pretty dark picture. A lot of times they will use an RV. So RV is like a house on wheels. So this is an RV. It's short for recreational vehicle. Let me put that in the chat for a sec. I should have recreational vehicle. So here we have a recreational vehicle. So it's something that you can use to go camping. If you go on a trip, you can take a recreational vehicle or an RV, and then you don't have to worry about where you're going to stay at night, because you have a house with you. You have a house on wheels. So very, very cool. When I was a kid, my mom and dad rented an RV. So we didn't buy one, we rented one. And we drove the RV to the east coast of Canada. We went to the province of Prince Edward Island. It was very, very cool. And I'll tell you, when I was a kid, we went on a trip, and then I slept up here above the cab. There was a little bed there, so that was really fun. I think I was about 10 years old. So I have one of these. This is a tractor. A tractor is used by farmers. So this tractor, it looks like it's out in a hayfield, but a tractor has a cab for the operator. So you drive a tractor, you can be a tractor driver or a tractor operator, that would be the name. Tractors have bigger wheels because they're often driving in fields where sometimes it's a little bit muddy. So these wheels are bigger than a car or truck so that you don't get stuck. Vehicles sometimes get stuck in the mud. So it's nice that a tractor has big heavy wheels so that you don't get stuck. I have a tractor. It's in some of my videos. I'll put a link up here. You can go watch me blow snow out of the driveway with my tractor. So now we get to, remember I showed you this and I said we're doing a lesson on vehicles, and I asked you what that was. So that is called a forklift. So a lot of times at a factory or in a warehouse, if you need to refresh your buildings, I'll put a link up here to the video on buildings, but a forklift has, we would call these forks on the front. So the forklift operator can lift things. So a forklift is very, very handy. It's very, very useful. So you would use a forklift if you are at a factory and you are making things and they are going to be piled up, and then eventually you come with a forklift and you lift them and you are able to go put them where they need to go in the warehouse. So that's a forklift. We also call it a tow motor. So forklift or tow motor. Hey, welcome, Fatter Prone. He says, I'm with you now, live chat, first time, welcome. And welcome to all the other first time people. If you are new here, you should subscribe. I do videos 3 times a week. They're always on different topics. And if everyone in the chat gave me a thumbs up right now, that would be awesome as well. We're gonna talk a little bit now about boats though. Boats are vehicles that go on water. In Canada, you need a license to drive a boat. If it's a certain size, I think. Wait, maybe that's not true. I might have just told you something that's not true. I'll research whether you need a boat license in Canada, and I'll put it in the comments below tomorrow. But this is a boat. So we use boat for vehicles up to a certain size. When a boat gets too big, we call it a ship. So the difference between a boat and a ship is just the size of it. Usually a boat can hold 10 people, maybe 20 people. But once you get to the point where like more than 100 or 200 people can go on, we usually call it a ship. So here we have a ship. If you have a ship or boat that takes cars on it, it's called a ferry. So this is a ferry. You can kind of see here, there are some cars on it. So a ferry takes people and cars and trucks between 2 points of land where there's no bridge. So in the, I think out east in Canada, there's still ferries that go to Prince Edward Island, although they did build a bridge. So if you don't have a bridge, you might need a ferry. So. A lot of people saying they love my lessons. Thank you very much for the compliments. I really enjoy doing this. So hopefully you guys are getting a lot out of it, which means hopefully you're learning a lot. Sailboat. So pretty straightforward. This is a boat that has sails on it. So it uses the wind in order to be able to move on the water. Sometimes they have a little motor in them, just in case there's no wind. So just in case means you have something in the event that you need it, but you don't use it all the time. So here we have a sailboat, and there's a bunch of people on here. We don't use sailboats too much anymore. It's pretty rare to use. I'm trying not to slurp my water because people don't like it when I slurp. We don't use sailboats a lot anymore. Usually they're for people who just enjoy sailing. That's what you do in a sailboat, you go sailing. But because we have engines and motors on our boats, we don't really need to use sailboats anymore. Basima Bebe says, I love your lessons so much. Thank you very much. This is a rowboat. So you can see in here, there's a couple oars. So oars, let me put that in the chat. Let's see, oars are used to row a boat. So these are oars. These kinds of boats are still used around the world. In Canada, people often use a rowboat to go fishing. What about my coffee, says Marilda. I already drank my coffee, so I'm just sipping some water now. Here we have a rowboat. It's a nice small boat, usually relatively cheap to buy a rowboat, and kind of fun. So this rowboat has 2 oars in it that people can use to go out on the water. In Canada, we also have a lot of canoes. So in fact, if you study the history of Canada, the canoe was used a lot in our history to initially explore the country of Canada. So when Canada was first discovered, The early people who came over from Europe used canoes a lot. So this is a canoe. It's a boat made for 1 or 2 people, sometimes 3, and you have a paddle. So in the rowboat, you use an oar, but in a canoe, you use a paddle. I'm typing that out. But in a rowboat, you use an oar. So it's a slight difference because they look the same. You can't see it in this picture, but a paddle is what you use to paddle a canoe. So you paddle a canoe like this, whereas you row like this. I'm just demonstrating how to go in a boat now. Hey, a lot of people from Canada go on cruise ships. So a cruise ship is a gigantic ship that's basically a floating hotel. So it's a place where you can stay while it sails from port to port, so that you can go and see different countries. A lot of people in Canada go on cruise ships around the Mediterranean Sea or down in the Caribbean. We say Caribbean or Caribbean, by the way. There's 2 ways to pronounce it. So, and cruise ships north of Europe are quite popular to visit Finland and Iceland, and Sweden and Norway. So cruise ships, pretty popular. I don't think I'll ever go on a cruise ship though, because I don't like small spaces. So if you have a small boat and it has a motor on the back, we call it a motorboat. So this is a motorboat. Many people in Canada own motorboats, and they have it on a trailer. And they use their motorboat to go fishing. So you could also call it a fishing boat, but technically it's just a small boat with a motor. We call it a motorboat. Yes, it's 8:20 in Toronto right now. In fact, I'm going to Toronto later today. I'm going to Canada's Wonderland. It's an amusement park. I'm taking some students there. So you know how people like having sports cars? Well, people also like having speedboats. So a speedboat is a boat that's built to go really fast. So here you have a speedboat. Sometimes they have more than one motor or more than one engine. But here you have a speedboat built, I guess, for rich people who just like to do things that are fun, because speedboats are really expensive. I'm not planning to buy one. And there's one more kind of boat that really, really rich people buy. Do you want to guess what it is? It's a yacht. So this is a difficult word for English learners to pronounce. It's yacht. So yacht. A yacht is an extremely expensive boat that's really just a floating house or home. And this one's just gigantic. This is just someone's yacht. It belongs to a very, very rich person. So we have a yacht. Well, I don't have a yacht. I don't think I'll ever have a yacht. You know what? If I had enough money to buy a yacht, I don't think I would buy one. I don't want to go over too many military boats. We're done with boats. But this is a submarine. So a submarine is a vehicle that can go under the water. So it can submerge, it can dive under the water. This submarine is above the water right now, but if they wanted to, they can go below the water. And that is a military ship. I'm not going to talk about aircraft carriers or battleships or destroyers, but if you're interested in the English phrases for military ships, you can have a look at that. Hey, we have 2 words for plane. We have airplane, and then we have plane. So a plane is a vehicle that flies in the sky. If it has this kind of engine, this is a jet engine, then we call it a jet. So this is a jet. We also have fighter jets. So this is a military aircraft. So a fighter jet is able to drop bombs, and it can participate in a war. We also have helicopters. So this, I've heard too, is a hard word to pronounce. It's helicopter. So a helicopter has basically a rotor that spins that allows it to go up and down. So you'll see a lot of helicopters used by news corporations, by news outlets in Canada and the US to fly around and see what traffic is like. I'm going a little faster because I want to get done. Here's a train. So we're going to talk a little bit about trains. A train goes on rails. In Canada, the person that drives the train is called an engineer. So here we have a train driven by an engineer, and it has train cars behind it. We have freight trains. I think it's almost the same picture. A freight train just hauls things. We also have a passenger train which hauls people or takes people. So you can have passenger trains or freight trains. And then in the city, we also have what's called a streetcar. So this also goes on rails. Sometimes it's connected to wires up here, but here we have a streetcar. I've never been on one of these, but a rocket is something that goes up to space. So you can see here that the rocket engine is firing, and the astronauts in the rocket are going to space. But let's come back down to Earth. This is a motorcycle. Bob the Canadian had a motorcycle when he was younger. My parents were not happy about it because they thought it was dangerous, but I drove a motorcycle when I was younger. Now I drive a van, but this isn't me, but I had a nice little motorcycle. We also have scooters. So these are our two-wheeled vehicles. So this is a scooter. This is very popular in Europe. In Italy, they make really good scooters. So this is a scooter. In Canada, we have a lot of these. These we call a quad or an ATV or a four-wheeler. So this is a vehicle that's meant to go off-roading or to go, out in the field. So it's usually two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. You wear a helmet when you're driving it, but people will equally use these four words. They'll say, oh, I went quadding, or I drove my quad, or I bought a new ATV, or I have a couple of four-wheelers, right? So these are four-wheelers. And then this is different than a street bike. This is a dirt bike. So it's a motorcycle, but we call this a dirt bike. It has really big shock absorbers, and the tires are meant to drive through dirt and out off the road, like off-roading again. Human-powered vehicles. Here is a bicycle, and if it only has one wheel, we call it a unicycle. So that's a challenging word as well. A unicycle has pedals and one wheel. Very cool. And Rosario says ATV. Yeah, it stands for all-terrain vehicle. So ATV equals all-terrain vehicle. So an all-terrain vehicle, we just say ATV. It's a little easier. Here's a different kind of vehicle. This is a hot air balloon. So they put a lot of hot air in the balloon. There's usually something that makes a flame here to heat up the air, and then the balloon rises because hot air will rise. If you get hurt, you might have to go in an ambulance. So an ambulance is a special vehicle that paramedics drive. So a paramedic is someone who drives an ambulance. So if you have an accident and you need help, you will probably get picked up by an ambulance. Zabi says, I want to say congratulations for the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors won the NBA championship last night. It's very, very cool. So thank you for that. This is a backhoe. It looks like a tractor, but it has a front end loader. So it has like something on the front that you can dig, but it also has on the back, we call this is a backhoe. So this is a digger extension on the back that lets you dig. So this is a backhoe. When you dig with a backhoe, sometimes you put the dirt in a dump truck. So a dump truck, the box on the back will tilt up so that everything in it can fall out the back. So when they're digging a hole with a backhoe, they often put the dirt in a dump truck, and then the dump truck can go and dump it somewhere. So it opens up, dumps it out the back. If your car breaks, You might need a tow truck. So this is a different kind of truck that can tow. So a tow truck is something that you call when your car breaks down. If you need a ride, you can call a taxi. Most taxis are yellow, but they can be different colors as well. And here we have a very Canadian vehicle. This is a snowmobile or a skidoo. So you can use either name. We usually use snowmobile. We sometimes just call it a sled as well, even though a sled usually doesn't have a motor. But in Canada, a lot of people have snowmobiles so that they can go snowmobiling. And then in the summer, people have sea-doos or jet skis. So this is kind of like the same thing. It's a recreational vehicle. It's a vehicle meant for recreation. Even though an RV is like a camper, you can still use recreational vehicle for vehicles you use for fun. So here we have a sea-doo or jet ski. If there's a fire, you can call a fire truck or a fire engine. That is a special kind of truck. And every Wednesday, we put our garbage along the road, and a garbage truck comes and picks up all our garbage. So hey, I have one left. It's just a Jeep, but that's the last one. A Jeep is actually a brand. I was gonna leave this out, but my cousin Ed drives a Jeep. It's a really nice one. I like it. So anyways, Bob the Canadian here. I have to go. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share this video with a friend, and be sure to do this. Tomorrow, if you come back to my channel and watch this video again, it will have subtitles on the bottom, and that might make it easier for some of you. You'll need to click the little button that says CC. But if you want just a refresher on vehicles, please come back tomorrow and watch it. Bob the Canadian here. Thank you so much for watching. I do need to go now because I have to get on a bus and I have to go to Canada's Wonderland, which I'm hoping to make a video while I'm there, and it will be out on Tuesday. So cross your fingers, wish me good luck, that we have a nice day and I'm able to shoot a video while I'm on my field trip. Anyways, thanks again, 335 people. I'm not sure if that's a record, but it's kind of fun. Thank you all for watching. I don't have time to say goodbye to everyone, but my good friend Sejong Song is there. I just want to say bye to him and Beryl Wilson, and I'm not going to start doing more names because I don't have time. I'm speaking my normal speed right now. You see that? Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful to you. Live stream tomorrow night, by the way. Tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the farm, and we'll do some conversation. I'll take questions from the chat. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. I'm really excited right now. Can you tell? I'm going to push